So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this morning. We really appreciate you guys giving your time for Think Local Columbus and for all the small businesses and those who want to become a small business and not sure what to do. Today, we're going to just kind of just do a general, what should a small business look at for insurance? What should maybe an individual that's in a home base look at for insurance? Do they have too much insurance? And I know some of you guys may be like, no, you never have too much insurance, but I do think that those are questions to cover today to give them an idea of, maybe, hey, I started my business, I got the basic business insurance, but we've grown. Has your insurance grown to accommodate that as well? I know one of the questions that we wanted to cover is if somebody walks in and trips and falls, what kind of insurance should you have for that? What kind of coverage should that be as well? So I'd like to just go around the table if we can. Introduce yourself, what company you're with. First off, these are all local agents that are here. So as Think Local Columbus, that's one of the best things is we like connecting people together and doing that type of thing. So I'm going to start with Bree. And if you'll just go around the table and kind of look at the camera since we're recording this a little bit.
Where am I?
You're right there.
Hi, I am Bree Weatherford. I am with Richard Hawes Insurance. I do our marketing and community outreach. Love coming to the chamber and hanging out with the people here at the chamber.
Hello, I'm Brian Rawlings. I'm with Rawlings Insurance. We are a local independent insurance agency in Columbus. We represent all different lines of business, and I've been a chamber member for a long time.
I'm going to adjust the camera, Scott.
Okay.
Just so we can try to get Bree in there. If it'll go down. There it goes. Now we just have to lean in maybe or something.
All right. Good morning. My name is Scott Weatherford. I'm owner of Richard Hawes Insurance. We're a local independent agency here in Columbus. We offer personal lines, commercial lines, insurance, life, a little bit of everything. Try to be a one-stop shop. So.
I'm Melissa Jocelyn. I work for Brick Kreider's Indiana Farm Bureau agency here in Columbus. I am fairly new to the insurance game, but I can do all the commercial, personal lines, all that fun stuff. So, Farm Bureau policies for us, as Bob's giving us a shake.
What's the insurance on that?
The TV didn't fall.
Oh, me?
You don't have to. We can go to Amy because insurance wise, I mean, we're not the
Good morning,
panel.
everyone. I'm Amy Stoughton. I'm with Liberty Mutual Insurance Agents at Amy Stoughton Agency. So Liberty Mutual is great. You get the big name feel, but we also act like an independent agency as well. I write through multiple carriers, do the personal lines, commercial, life, all, you name it, we do it.
I'm Samantha Tyson. I'm the owner of Shelter Insurance, and I've been in insurance for 11 years. I do a little bit of everything as well. I think all of us do at this point.
Wear lots of hats.
Well, that's all. There's Nate.
All right, I'm Nate West. I'm with Zeller Insurance. I'm an agent there. We're an independent agency, and we do, like everybody else, personal lines, commercial, life insurance, all this stuff.
We have a chat, Bob. Will you handle the chats?
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't have my glasses, so I can't see. So,
Welcome, Nikki.
yeah. Who wants to read that out loud?
It says, hey, so I'm new to the USA and I'm here to learn exactly what I need for my new branch.
So Nikki moved here from South Africa. I think I haven't met Nikki.
Oh,
She's with Wicked Agency, yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you guys, what would she need for her new branch? What do you guys suggest to start with?
I think we can just kind of hop into
Yeah.
dissecting coverages and all that stuff. So, and then I'm happy to start with kind of the package stuff, and then, if you guys want to piggyback handling that. So within a commercial policy, you're going to have a general liability policy, and you're going to have, a property part where those are going to be the most notable things. So in handling that, it's just that it's, if we talked about the trip and fall, if you've got a storefront location, somebody walks in the door, they trip and fall, you want to make sure that you've got coverage and protection with that. And it's going to go kind of hand in hand with other liability exposures. Whereas if you cause damage to somebody else's property, very common in regard to the package stuff is the property itself. So do you have a storefront? If you've got a storefront, obviously we want to insure the building, or if you're a tenant, it's going back to the general liability portion. Also going to want to have a somewhat in the ballpark idea of your property, whether it's computers or your tools or your equipment. Is it traveling off premise? There's a lot of things that go into it, but those are going to be the two notable parts within a package policy.
And I think insurance has a lot of terms that people hear and they're not familiar with. So BOP is a big term that people, so that's kind of what you were speaking to. So if you've heard that before, that's what you were referencing. Because I know insurance, it's like, oh, we have all these little terms that to us we throw around and it makes perfect sense, but to someone else, they're like, what is that?
And I think a lot of policies and stuff have so many customizable options,
Oh, yeah.
endorsements and things like that, because like Nikki's practice is mostly digital, she creates platforms for people, she might not need like storefront protection. She
Sure.
doesn't have a storefront, but we can offer like data breach or
Right.
something like that. So coming to the table when you talk to your potential insurance agent with the full story of what you do, so we know exactly how to protect you.
A lot of the endorsements are going to be kind of industry specific, where they'll have the bells and whistles, like if you're heavy into the digital space, cyber liability seems to be a really common issue going on, and obviously data breach kind of goes hand in hand with that as well. So, just detailing, explaining your operations with your insurance agent of, hey, I do this, and they should be able to kind of customize a policy that works best for you.
And with that, you really want to find an agent that you can like, know, and trust, because you have to be completely honest with your insurance agent. We're going to find out. So you might as well be upfront and open with us from the beginning and let us insure you correctly instead of thinking that we are, but not in the end.
Finding out the hard way.
Yeah,
So-
because that's not a fun situation.
As the non-insurance person in the room, what I'm hearing is, I think the most important word we heard so far was, Scott mentioned customizable. So your business insurance is obviously gonna look a lot different if you're Nikki running in the cyber world versus Joe, who's a roofer.
Oh, absolutely.
There's just entirely different. So it's really important to get out and talk with you guys. So what as far as coverage, what's something that, let's get back to, like, just use Nikki as an example. Where do we start with that? You know what I mean? Like, kind of walk us through the process of what that conversation would look like. What would she need that she may not know she needs? I know you talked about covering equipment when it was at home versus off premise, that
Like a
sort of thing.
photographer, for
Yeah,
instance.
yeah, like I had no idea that if that was two separate line items. So I just start there at the beginning.
I think what you said with it being completely customizable, I mean, you have to think it's gonna be a different policy for someone that runs a bakery versus an auto mechanic, or someone that has, a fleet of vehicles that come with them. One thing, like you talked about, the liability is a must. That's your base to the policy, and everything you just throw on top of it. Another one is the business income insurance. That's probably something that everybody through all lines would need, because obviously you have a business to make money, and if something happens and you can't make money from your business, that's a great piece that you should look at adding.
So once you meet with your agent, we're gonna ask a whole bunch of questions, because that's what we like to do, right?
Yes.
Can I get a show of hand, everybody? Ask
Yes.
questions? So we ask a bunch of questions. More than likely, if you have a very kind of a niche market, we're gonna have a special application for you, and it's gonna help flush out some of those questions also. Real specifics to whatever it is you're doing. So, digital marketing is gonna have a different application that's gonna have a bunch of questions that may or may not apply, but it'll help facilitate getting all the information out.
I think so, going off of things. So what does step one is they call you, right? Oh, I met you guys off of Think Local training. I think you're great. Step one is, what do they bring to that first meeting? So what do you guys suggest that they bring to that first meeting?
So stuff that I often ask is, a lot of companies ask different questions. So, kind of covering a blanket and asking a plethora of questions to make sure in an independent space we have more than one market to take you. So I always ask, hey, do you have an entity set up? Is it an LLC? Is it incorporated? Obviously, if they are formatted that way, they have a federal ID number. Obviously going to collect that. I like to know if they have employees, because this is kind of going to segue into, do you need workers' comp? And, you know, obviously, if you have employees, we're going to need to know payroll, projected sales over the last 12 months. And those are kind of the highlights that I ask. And then, you know, do you have a physical building? Do you own the building? Do you lease the building? So those are some of the questions that I ask up front, and that kind of points me in the direction of, you know, going back to the customizable features of, you know, what do you truly need?
When somebody starting out, we write the policy for what's happening today. So I'm probably going to buy a building later. Well, we don't get to insure that building,
Right.
you know, for in the future. So we really care about what's happening today. If we learn more about what's going to happen in the future, we can kind of make some steps to make sure that we make an easy transition to add those additional coverages when it comes up. But
And to add to that, I know insurance is one of those things that we like to do and throw in the, you know, the filing cabinet and never look at again. But if you're in a business and you're growing, as things happen, you want to have that BFF relationship with your insurance agent so that everything that you are doing is insured and it's continuously being insured properly, because you will usually get audited occasionally. And audit is a big word. Don't stress about it. It's
Yeah.
like 4 questions.
It's not as bad as the IRS
No,
audits.
no, it's very
it's really just a
simple.
questionnaire.
It's a questionnaire. It should be considered a questionnaire.
So do you guys suggest maybe an annual review with your
Absolutely.
insurance
Absolutely,
agent? And
yes.
so I'm assuming you guys are really great at being proactive with that too. Like, so when your agent calls you, it's not a bad thing. It's
Right.
really to make sure that you're being covered and protected properly. So don't ignore when they call.
Yes, absolutely. No reject budget.
And they're not trying to upsell you, they're just trying to make sure that you're protected. And I think that's, because that's me, all right? I get the phone call from the insurance guy, and I was like, you know, I don't want to buy more insurance. I'm good. I have everything covered, I think. So, but it's just a review to make sure. And I've actually personally done a review myself, and we changed it because our family changed and stuff, so.
And it's okay to not have those things that you talked about, like, you know, I think for me and how we operate is, you know, you tell me what you do, and then I have my own set of questionnaires, so you can come in and just have a conversation first. It's not like you have to, like, oh my gosh, what do I need? I need to dig out all these papers, and then most stuff that we might not necessarily use. So don't feel like you have to, you know, prep for this meeting. You can definitely come in and just do, you know, a consultation and figure out what we need and then get it back to us. It's not, you know, you don't have to prep necessarily for the meeting unless you just want to bring what you have handy. So,
You know, if you're comfortable talking about your business, then
yeah.
you
And most
should be
people
able to
know a good
aware.
idea what goes on, maybe not down to the dollar, but yeah, it's not like, you know, going to the dentist, or you don't have to be worried. You know, we're friendly. You just come in and have a conversation. It's not scary.
And for an established business, if you're kind of shopping around or looking at other options, your current deck pages are always
Absolutely.
helpful too.
Yes.
Declaration.
I know.
I
Yeah.
learned that.
Yes.
I don't know why, but that was always.
I got it now.
Here's the insurance
Declaration,
lingo
yeah.
again. Yes.
Declaration.
But that just basically lays out what you're currently paying for or what you're currently getting at your provider. And that also helps us when we're having the discussion with you of what you do. I know I was looking at one at the beginning of the year, an excavation company. Also just happened to throw in, he was doing snow removal. There were no coverages for snow removal on his current package. And I was like, okay, even if you stay with your current provider, you need to get this added because snow removal, things can go sideways pretty quick.
And I sorry to jump in,
Yeah.
but I do think that's a great thing about shopping insurance too, is like people will catch different things.
Right.
Someone came
Right,
to us
right.
and they didn't have their cameras properly insured, and he's like, well, you know, if you want to have your insurance with us, that's totally fine, but make sure, if you want to stay with your guy, just make sure these need to actually be insured because they're currently not with the paperwork. So I
Right.
think that's great too, that different people catch different things.
Right.
And we're not always there to sell
Yep.
stuff to you. Sometimes it's just. good
Friendly
advice.
advice, yeah.
Yeah.
And a big thing about shopping local is we do all know each other, or at least know names.
Yes.
So if I cannot help you, I mean, I even called Nate yesterday. Hey, Nate, Can
gosh.
you?
Yeah, I called him last week.
Like, we do work together.
Yes.
They
And
call
we-
me with all the nightmares.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
I know.
Right.
Come on, use some credit.
But it's, you know, that's what's funny about insurance is one company can be stellar and this is their, you know, this is what they do and what they excel in. And your company might excel in something completely different. So I think most of us look and what's best for our customer.
Correct.
If I have something that is gonna be, you know, hundreds of dollars a month, or something you offer them, you know, less than $100 a month, we want our customers
I agree.
to get good coverage, you know, for the right price.
And that's not online, and it's not something that you're just throwing in together, you know, throwing in numbers and hoping for the best, because when a claim happens, that's when your insurance matters.
Yes.
It has nothing to do about any coverage you have, doesn't matter until the claim happens, and then your agent matters, your coverage matters, everything matters. That's what makes your life either chaotic or stress-free.
Amen to that. Hey, everybody there. Let me guess, Brian is your insurance agent, Sarah? We have talked a lot.
Just totaled their policy.
Yeah, a beer, a total, it's fine. So I passed the crash family on to you. Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks for taking it. Appreciate it. So we've talked a lot, you know, we were gonna break down items that they needed. So we were gonna talk about just general coverage for a business, which I think we've kind of talked about that. Workman's comp, like, are there certain, I guess my question is do all of you guys cover workman's comp, or do some of you do, you know what I mean? Like, is there differences there? So everybody covers workman's comp.
With our companies.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think a thing to think about is commercial auto, right? We think automotive, residential, that type thing, but what about, I mean, so I drive for my work, right? And I think my car's under that coverage, but I don't know, but I know it's under my coverage. So does that matter? Should I look at more of a commercial auto, or is my residential okay on that? Or the people that maybe are home-based, right? They're a home-based business, but they use their car like a cleaning lady, like, right? My sister-in-law is a cleaning lady, so she's driving to all these things. Is that a specialty coverage that she should have, or?
So each thing is so different. I think everybody's like, oh, who wants to answer this one?
Way to throw a hard one.
Brian's gonna say something.
Yeah.
It depends. That is the
Welcome
answer.
to the gray world of insurance where
Yeah.
nothing is black and white. Yes. I think typically when we look at something like that, we want to know who owns the car. If it's owned by your, you know, your business, you're using it solely for business, like delivery drivers, things like that. That's definitely where you want to put the policy. If you use it for personal use mainly, I think then it's so different. You
Right.
really have to get in and see what they're using that vehicle for. And, you know, if it's a personal vehicle, then most of that would fall back to your
If it's
personal
owned
auto.
and titled into your business name, I feel like that's when
That's
it's
most definitely.
most
yes.
definitely, I
Yes.
can say.
Yes, that one is most definitely.
Yeah,
And
yes.
if you have a logo on the side, of it,
Yes.
it has to be commercial.
Yes.
Like,
Okay,
That's a problem.
And if you're using it primarily for business, I mean,
Right.
if you got a ladder on your truck.
Yes,
It's on a
yes.
personal policy.
Curious
you
to get
probably
this
gonna
for.
see, that's good things to know though, because like the guy that's the lawn care guy, right, that is just working out of his truck, who probably doesn't even have real insurance, right, for his business, he's just going around, but he's stuck a sticker on it because his wife's made a cricket sticker, and he's put the ladder on it. Well, he really should look at
Yes.
commercial insurance for that then.
Because again, back to what Samantha said,
That's-
is you don't think or, you know, worry about your insurance until you need it. So if you are ever in a situation where you get in an accident and you cause harm to someone else, you know, you want to really make sure that you've thought about these things before the accidents happen.
I think at the end of the day with commercial insurance, you just want to determine how are you using this vehicle? Are you using it for your business or even a percentage or majority of? That gives us an idea, and just having a simple conversation with your agent, say, hey, I got this vehicle, I use it for this. You know, do you take it to the, or are you off duty, you know, going to the grocery store? There's, you know, like we said, it's a gray area of insurance, trying to figure out where it goes. But at the end of the day, the insurance agent's gonna make it, you know, coverage is where it needs to be with the lowest possible cost, so.
And we can't rate a personal vehicle as business use for certain businesses. So like
Right,
contractor, you know, you get the ladder strapped to it, like that's a no-go on a personal policy.
right. And
But if
certain
you're a
types of
realtor
trucks.
and you're just driving around showing houses, we can rate that as business use. on a
Yeah.
personal policy.
Right.
They will account for it as far as the premium they charge, but
Right.
the coverage is fine.
I think people get in their mind, like the tax questions, like, oh, I'm writing this off as business use. Do I need this car to be a business policy? And that's not always the case. You know, like you said, you can have a personal auto policy and use it as a business, business use, but doesn't have to be on a business policy.
We do have a question that just came in. What is something I absolutely have to have? The situation is she is now leased an office through someone else. So this was a home-based business that now has leased an office. So what do we need to do to properly protect her and said office, even though it's not an owned building, it's a lease?
I'm sure your tenant's gonna request at least a general liability policy. That way is, if you happen to burn the building down and it's your fault, they've got coverage there. So generally, when you're going into a leasing agreement, your landlord in some capacity is going to ask for a proof of insurance for a general liability policy.
So I think Nikki has a policy right now. And so then we need to make sure that we add the new location to that policy. And so it'll,
And then
Don't
the
have that
next
on there.
question is, do you have customers that come to your store? Or are you just using this as, your office base? So then that's the next step of questions then we start to ask is, who's at that location? Just you? Do you have customers? What's going on at your business?
When it goes into product and equipment.
Yes.
How much
Yeah,
belongings
what do
do
you
you
have there?
have?
Do you have a fancy printer in it?
Yeah.
she's gonna have all kinds of computer stuff, I'm
Oh,
guessing.
yeah.
How many thousands of dollars of equipment do you have? Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's also important to explain what is business personal property when you're dealing with property coverage. And the way that I explain, I think is probably the easiest to understand is turn the building on its head. The stuff that's gonna fall that's not directly fastened to the building is going to be considered business personal property in most cases. So your computers, potentially your fridges, tools, equipment, shelving, stuff like that is going to go under that business personal property. So, it's important to understand that that truly isn't going to go under the property building section. It's going to go under business personal property.
Great. So one of the last topics that we had were we asked you guys all to bring a horror story so that we can learn from it.
Brian, if I am your horror story. Let's hear it.
So
Not
you-
like anybody ever insured like a snake handler or.
yeah. Yeah. So.
want to hear the bad stories.
Yeah. Or the bad situation, right? That they should have done this, and because they didn't, this is what happened. And with us recording this and people hearing it, I want them to be like, oh, maybe I should call my insurance agent because I don't think I have that covered. So I guess we'll start with Nate and kind of round robin it. Yeah. Hey, here's your put down the spot thing, Nate, that you like to do to everybody else.
He didn't
so.
prepare.
Well, I didn't go real heavy on my horror story. It's not that bad. So I have a lawn care business insured, and these people mow the same yards every week, right? You go mow the same thing. And one day his guy is mowing and there happens to be a random piece of metal in the yard that the guy didn't see, and it shot out of the mower and hit somebody's windshield. And so there's no accident or anything, so it could have went a lot worse. But the client calls me like, hey, what do I do on this? I'm like, well, we need to find out how much that windshield is. Can it be repaired, or do we have to replace it, and that kind of thing. It was like a brand new truck with like all
Oh,
this
yeah.
stuff built into the windshield. So it was like a $800 windshield. And with liability coverage, we step in and pay for it, and there's no deductible on it or anything. So kind of a little bit more background on that. He went back and forth with the driver of the vehicle because he was kind of sketchy acting. And it was kind of a hassle. I'm like, hey man, you just gotta let us take it over. And so input the claim, and he washed his hands of it, and he's moved on. So windshield's fixed. We know to look a little harder in the grass when we're mowing for random things.
Huge point. Don't try to fix the claim yourself. People are paid to process claims and to investigate and to do everything. So you don't have to
Yeah.
try to figure it all out. We've got you covered.
Yes.
Okay, Samantha, no,
Oh,
go with your
sorry.
horror story
Didn't
now.
mean to talk about it. So first a good story. So workers' compensation. I had just contractors doing some siding work and the storm was coming. They were coming off a ladder. One of their employees fell off the ladder and severely hurt themselves. Was in the hospital for months, ended up being out of work for over 6 months. We paid all of the medical, paid, income as well. And then a couple of years later, a claim for a business owner, the actual owner of a company. Whoa, Bob, what are you doing?
Okay, it's still
Minimize
recording.
it.
Owner of a company actually fell out of a tree that he was trimming. And he was not covered on his workers' comp, because as a business owner, you get to choose if you are covered on your policy or if you want to exclude yourself. And a lot of people exclude themselves due to the costs. So complete opposite situation happened. And now he's
Not covered.
not covered, getting things taken care of on his own, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally don't have any horror stories. Of course, we've all seen claims that hopefully, because we work for great companies, go smoothly. But I think the thing that scares me personally is when you're having a conversation with someone and you say, oh, look, I found this hole in your in your policy, this, you need this coverage here that we'll add on. And I think people think that we're just trying to sell them, or, we're trying to make all this money off of them. But really, that's our job, is to make sure that there aren't any holes in your coverage. We want to make sure that if someone falls off the ladder or someone, damages somebody else's property, that you're properly insured. And again, it's not us trying to take you to the cleaners. We just want to make sure in the event of when you have to use your insurance, that we've written it properly. And so I think for me, that's always in the back of my mind, hoping we don't have horror stories, because we want to make sure that you're insured. That's our job. That's what we do. And we want to make you sure that you are properly covered for the least amount of money as possible.
And to that, it's always, why didn't I do this?
Yes.
At this
So when we tell you to do it, do it.
Not 2 years from now.
Yes, not 2 years from now. Not when you scrape up the money.
Yeah.
Do it. Because, if you have $1 million claim against you, that will ruin your life. I mean, any income that you make for the rest of your life is going, they're going to get the money from you. So make sure you don't have to do that.
So of course, me being kind of fresh to the insurance scene, I had to do some digging to find a horror story from the rest of my agency. And he actually had a pretty good one that opens up the subcontractor window too. So a client, or one of our clients, was working on a home for somebody, and they had to hire a subcontractor to do the roof. Bad storm rolled in, the roof wasn't done, the sub didn't put a tarp over. So all the inside of the house, they had to completely replace the kitchen, brand new kitchen cabinets and everything. Of course, we paid for it, but the only reason we paid for it versus the subcontractors, we found out after the fact the sub did not have insurance. So that's a whole nother thing if your business requires or occasionally requires use of subs to get that certificate of insurance from them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If they don't have it, find you a different one.
Yes.
Yeah, I got a relatively light one. It's actually on myself. So, yeah, right. And it's something that kind of
Are you
opens the
covered at the building? Let's review our policy, because I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, all right, so, this kind of opens the door of getting really into the nitty gritty weeds of what's in a commercial policy. So over the weekend in the summer, we had a storm roll in. I don't know if lightning struck the building, whatever had happened. I came in Monday morning in the summer and my office is 87 degrees.
Oh,
A little warm, right? And so I'm like, what's going on? Is
Yeah,
air
you're calling
air
Jessica,
conditioner working?
Jessica wasn't in, you're like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with the,
I'm sitting there working, I'm
That was a
sweating,
woman.
I'm hot. And so I go out, I call the plumber or the HVAC guy, and he comes and looks, he's like, yeah, your AC unit's shot. I was like, well, I'm in insurance, I know how to fix this. there is an endorsement on, it's called equipment breakdown.
Right.
So for those of you listening, if you own a storefront, put that on your policy. It's worth your weight in gold. It often covers wear and tear. In my case, it did. And I got a new AC unit because I'm assuming there was some type of electrical shortage and you know, if I wouldn't have had it, I would have been out probably $6 or $7 grand. And now I just had to pay my deductible of $1,000 and got a new AC unit. So not a horror story, more of a like, yes, I did my job story, but certainly it's a super cheap, it's a super cheap coverage. So I got a new AC unit out of it. So
Will you say it one more time? What's the name of it?
it's called equipment breakdown.
Equipment breakdown. All right.
It's the only part on the policy that'll cover failure due to maintenance and just wear and tear.
Good to know.
Otherwise, it's excluded.
Yes.
And a lot of times on the personalized front, they have that from carrier to carrier as well. So if you got an older AC unit, yeah.
Yes. And I think most people think that when you say, oh, you need to add this equipment breakdown coverage, they're thinking, oh my gosh, that's gonna be another, $1,000 or something. It's not. Most of these add-on things are.
I think it was $120, something like
For a
that.
year.
For a year.
I would rather pay $120 a year and not have to pay, probably a commercial HVAC unit was
Oh, yeah,
probably
yeah.
close to 10 grand. I mean.
Yeah, I don't know what it was enforcement wise. I knew
I
what I
bet
was
if you go,
responsible for.
yes, because the home ones anymore are $6,000 to $7,000 a piece.
Okay.
So, $120 a year versus, even on the homeowner side, $6 grand. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer.
I had a client one time that had their building caught on fire and
Oh,
it was done for. And so that was a very stressful situation for them, obviously. They had recently bought a piece of equipment that was probably about $50,000. And so it hadn't yet been added to their policy. So that was a major stressor, but when you're looking at your debt page, there's all kinds of extra pages of they're kind of like fluff coverages where everybody adds on all these little things. Well, inside of theirs was an endorsement more or less where it was included that if they had bought equipment in the last 3 months, it's covered up to a certain point. So they were lucky in that case, but that could have turned into a major horror story for them.
Well, so I'm gonna bring that because, if I'm a business owner, I'm thinking, you just said fluff coverages, right? So for me, fluff is, I don't want it.
right.
But obviously it's important. So I think that's where I think as a small business or even a personal person, kind of explain that, go through it and do that. Because on my review, I had Oriental rugs, $100,000 covered for Oriental rugs. And I was like, I buy my rugs at Walmart. So we can take that off, you know what I mean? But I was paying for it. So I think that's important because I feel a lot of times it's like, well, I have this, but I don't think I need it. And I think that's a big thing for businesses to be like, this is why you have it, because if you do buy something and you forget to call me, at least it's covered, so.
And a lot of those are baked into the policy, right?
Right.
So you can go in and say, well, I don't need that. Well, you're not really being charged for it. It's
Right.
baked into the policy, whereas some others might be a la carte where you can kind of pick and choose where we go into the customizable stuff. Your agents know what this stuff needs, what you need,
Right.
what you don't. We're not going to put on stuff that you don't need to get more money. What we try to do is we give you the best coverages possible at the lowest affordable cost. And so going a la carte might be the best way to do that. Sometimes just adding a bundle on there might be the best way. It's going to vary from customer to customer.
The bundle deals will typically have coverages that really don't stand out as anything super important, but they're super cheap because that's what they offer to everybody when they add that endorsement. And what I usually explain to people is it helps you get paid better when there's a claim. So you're going to have a claim one way or the other. If you have these little bonus coverages in there, they're going to have some extra payouts to cover random things that you aren't thinking of right now.
Right. And most of those are just language of your policy. It's not something that you can really remove off of there. And like you said, it's just baked it, like you can't remove them. It's just something, I always tell people, it's something that we offer for free in your base policy. So doesn't cost you anything to have it. It's just,
Just help
it's
catch some
added
of this
value.
stuff
yes,
that could
added
go wrong.
value, yes.
So
Not
Bree,
just fluff.
not just fluff, it's added value.
Yes, yes.
Bree, do you have a story? You do.
Knock on
It's okay.
wood. Every day I'm like, anything, we're good?
Are we good? Good over here? Yeah.
Just that's-
Well, so that covers all of our topics. Do you guys have anything you want to add in?
I would.
Okay.
And I think it kind of highlights the title of this seminar is with being umbrella is business catastrophe liability or a business umbrella policy. So what is that exactly? It's not something that is always needed, but I always recommend having it because what this does is it gives you added liability or increased liability limits for a super cost-effective price. So what an umbrella policy does is it kind of, just with the umbrella, right? You hold it, right? Yeah, they very original name, right?
Yes.
It covers a lot of different things for maybe $500, maybe $1,500, where let's say it's $1 million umbrella policy. It's going to give you an extra $1 million on your liability. So let's say you have a 1 million with a 2 million aggregate on your general liability. Obviously, that's going to be triggered first if you have a claim. But if it goes out of that, where they could come after you for more, let's say it was a $2 million claim, $3 million claim, it's going to trigger your umbrella. So where now you have a $2 million liability limit there. So super cost effective way to give you increased limits.
Like that would be great for the person that was in medical, right, had the accident, right? Cause.
Yeah.
It would attach onto it,
Right,
yes.
cause who knew how long they'd be in the hospital for or what,
Right.
yeah.
And the umbrella is really an asset protector, is how I
Yep.
describe that. So if you own a nice big commercial building, you have to have an umbrella because if you have a major claim, you have a huge asset that somebody can come after.
Mhm. And
And
they will.
yeah, the umbrella is gonna give an extra layer to.
You want your liability coverage to be more than your assets, hands down.
Yep.
You never want it to be less or even equal, always exceed it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll come after your stuff.
So I think the moral of the story today is just finding an agent that you can have a conversation with. You don't have to prep for the meeting. You don't have to, that's what we do. We just want to talk to you. Well, we know the questions we need to ask. So, just come to us, ask questions. Most people are like, oh, I don't want to bother you. Bother us. That's our job. That's what we live for. I know it
We
sounds
like to be
weird, but
bothered.
we want to talk about insurance. That's, at the end of the day, that's what we do. So make sure, just have a conversation. We won't bite. We're pretty nice.
Right, we are people too,
Yeah.
so we have insurance,
Yeah.
usually our own insurance agents, but.
Yes. I'm writing my own.
Right. But I mean, I'm a mom, Amy's a mom, I mean, we all have our own families, we all have our own lives, we're just normal people here trying to help the community out wherever we can.
And most people don't know about their insurance. I mean, even on the personal side of things, I ask a question, do you have a deductible? And they're like, well, what's a deductible? It's fine.
I have
You
full
know,
coverage.
Yes, I have full coverage. So it's fine to not know about insurance. I don't think most people that we talk to have this, extensive knowledge of insurance. So don't feel like you're asking silly questions. Like Samantha said, don't hide things from us because, we want to make sure that in the event of a claim, you're not going to be the one that's footing the bill.
And if you haven't talked to your agent in a while, schedule a review.
Call us.
Like get it in there and make sure.
It's not just to sell you new insurance, we promise.
So Nikki, I think is just saying, thank you guys
Yeah.
for this information and appreciate it. And from Think Local Columbus and the Chamber, I know, just thank you guys for taking this morning out, coming in and talking to everybody. We are going to put this on thinklocalcolumbus.com on the website. It's always there. So you guys are more than welcome to share it on your social media and that type thing. That's going to help all that. But again, thanks so much. We greatly appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Here comes IT.
Bye, Bob.
One
So
more.
here's.
Yes.
Keep going.